Hello and welcome to Valuechain News. I am Naomi Oleribe. First, the headlines. NCDMB to set minimum benchmark for women in oil and gas. Nigeria will play a leading role in global net zero transition. Silver. IOC's divestment crippling economy, worsening forex crisis. NCDMB. And now the news in detail. The Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board (NCDMB) has announced plans to set a minimum percentage of females in Human Capacity Development (HCD) program for oil and gas industry in the country. The Executive Secretary NCDMB, Engineer Simbi Wabote, who stated this recently at the second Nigerian Women in Oil and Gas Conference, said the board would work on the policy and communicate same to the industry as soon as possible. The conference was organized by the NCDMB in partnership with the Diversity Sectorial Working Group of the Nigerian Content Consultative Forum (NCCF), which was set up by the NCDMB to advise it on policy directions. Speaking on the $40 million Women in Energy Fund, which the NCDMB set up in partnership with the Nigerian Export-Import Bank Nexim Bank, the Executive Secretary disclosed that 15 applications have been received and 3 have been approved, adding that the disbursement of funds will soon start. He also revealed that the online portal for the fund was launched 2 weeks ago to speed up the process and reduce human interface in the application and processing. On his part, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timothy Silver, commended the NCDMB for inaugurating the Diversity Sectorial Working Group under the NCCF as provided in Section 58 of the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development Act. He noted that women make up 48% of the global labor force, but they only account for 22% of the labor force in the oil and gas sector. Minister of State for Petroleum Resources Timothy Silver at the weekend hinted that Nigeria will play a key role in the global energy transition to achieve net zero emissions, adding that the country will stake natural gas as its favorite transition fuel. The minister, who spoke at the 10th anniversary of the West African Gas Pipeline Company Limited (WAPCO) with the theme Driving Regional Energy held in Lagos, said the government was taking steps to expand and develop its huge gas resources. The minister, who was represented by his chief of staff Adedapo Odulaja, said the strategy would be actualized through enhanced gas exploration, development and utilization schemes. The Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board (NCDMB), Engineer Simbi Wabote, has lamented that the divestment by the international oil companies (IOCs) and their reluctance to make fresh investments in the nation's oil and gas industry have worsened capital flights in the country. Divestment, he stated, is stifling the nation's economy of the much-needed foreign exchange as loans to acquire oil and gas assets are being used to develop new production facilities in country. Wabote, who stated this in his convocation lecture delivered at the Federal University of Petroleum Resources, FUPRE, Delta State at the weekend, stated that the IOC's divestment has resulted in the emergence of indigenous companies playing major roles in exploration and production activities. On energy transition, he advised Nigeria and other hydrocarbon-rich countries to develop the requisite capacity and capability to produce and utilize their fossil fuel resources, given that the need to develop capacity for fossil fuel production has become imperative. Libya's oil production has almost completely halted because of a political stalemate, officials told media during a time of heightened global concerns over the supply of crude. The Libyan Ministry of Oil and Gas told news outlets this week that the country's oil output has fallen more than 85%, with production now at 100,000 to 150,000 barrels a day, according to Reuters, a shocking drop from a once robust output of 1.2 million barrels per day last year. The drop in production, initially reported by Bloomberg, places further pressure on a global market that has already seen a 50% jump in the price of a barrel of Brent crude oil this year, up to nearly $120. The blockade of oil facilities is driven by a political rivalry between two main factions in the country over control of Libya's government. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and the Ministry of Oil in Iraq have launched a history book titled OPEC 60 Years and Beyond, a story of courage, cooperation, and commitment in Baghdad. The launch took place in Al-Shab Hall in the Bab al-Muatham district of the Iraqi capital, the site of the organization's founding in September 1960. It was attended by several ministers in Iraq as well as senior officials from the Ministries of Oil and Culture. The publication was put together by the OPEC Secretariat to commemorate the organization's 60th anniversary. It aims to expand the readership of OPEC's history, its objectives and achievements in the last 6 decades. OPEC Secretary General, His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Sanusi Barkindo, in his remarks at the launch, lauded the organization for its achievements in the last 6 decades. As an organization, we have come a long way. We have witnessed many ups and downs. We have seen 7 major market cycles, including the latest in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. We have evolved as an integral part of the international energy community, and we have seen reams of column inches written about OPEC. It is important to stress that in terms of OPEC's history, the organization is far more than just an appendage to the history of oil. It is the story of a family of nations, of people and populations, of feelings and emotions, of countries rich in culture and heritage, and of the struggle of a group of developing countries to exercise the inalienable rights of all countries to exercise permanent sovereignty over their natural resources in the interest of their national development, Barkindo remarked. Foreign exchange crisis, high inflation, and fiscal pressures generated by fuel subsidies, according to the World Bank, distorts the benefits of a growing non-oil sector and high oil prices. This was disclosed by the World Bank in a document titled Nigeria Development Update, June 2022, The Continuing Urgency of Business Unusual. The World Bank stated that the weakening of Nigeria's macroeconomic framework is mainly due to the absence of concerted efforts to reduce inflation, address fiscal pressures, and strengthen exchange rate management. Before we end the news, here's a recap of our headlines. NCDMB to set minimum benchmark for women in oil and gas. Nigeria will play a leading role in global net zero transition. Silver, IOC's divestment, crippling economy, worsening forex crisis, NCDMB. And that's the news. I am Naomi Oleribe. Good evening.